This is your Chief Science Officer, Brazos Minshew. Welcome to Wellness Talks. Today we're going to be talking with Patty Milligan, registered dietitian, who's going to help us now translate from the general need that we have to lose weight into some very specific steps that we can take, some strategies that we can employ during the holiday season, but really during the entire year. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me back.
So among the things that we were talking about before is that sometimes people have just a little bit more to eat than they planned on eating, especially during these festive family holiday times. Tell us, first of all, how big of a problem is that? And what are some of the things that we can do to allay those little issues?
Sure. Well, one is I do think that there's holiday pitfalls, and to me they fall into sort of three categories. One is how you start your day at the beginning kind of dictates what's going to happen all day long. Then the second, I think, are holiday parties or family gatherings. Sometimes those you feel like, boy, once I hit the road there, it's all over. And then thirdly, I would probably say what I call weekend eating, where the idea every day becomes a celebration and a weekend eating. So if we kind of look at strategies maybe in each area, we can have folks identify what are the things that they can put into place.
Very good, very good. So let's just start at the beginning.
Okay.
Okay, so here we are. We're going to have a big family gathering over at my house, and we're cooking up luscious, wonderful things that we're going to be eating. Where does the problem begin, and what can I do to perhaps curb that little issue?
Great. Well, and usually those are evening dinners, right? I always tell people when you get ready to plan a party or go to a holiday meal, it begins about 10 hours before. That's when you really set the stage with getting your metabolism and your blood glucose steady. So by the time you get to the dinner, it's not about restraint. It's about making very mindful choices. So we definitely know that people overeat when their blood sugar is going up and down and when they're dehydrated. So beginning the top of the day, first think of hydration, thinking of making sure that you have that nice big glass of water. And then if you live in kind of a colder area, having a glass of warm tea or even hot water with lemon to start your day. That starts going with the metabolism nicely. Then second, making sure that you establish your blood glucose with a good protein and complex carbohydrate breakfast.
So first thing in the morning, lots of protein. And what would be a good example of protein first thing in the morning?
Well, I'm kind of a fan of eggs. How about you?
Eggs are good. Eggs are good.
I think that, and I also think, some of the yogurts, the Greek yogurts, or even if you prefer doing more soy, is also a good choice. And then, you know what? You don't have to have breakfast food for breakfast. You could actually do many of the dinner items.
Exactly. And I don't know how long it took me to learn that, but then I began to hopefully convincingly tell people the same thing. Have lunch for breakfast, right? Have supper for breakfast. And I think the thing that probably caught my attention, back in the 90s, I went to Japan, and they have a traditional breakfast salad, right? A breakfast salad with dressing and lettuce and tomatoes and radishes for breakfast.
Right.
And so it does open your mind that other things can be eaten besides eggs and Greek yogurt, which, by the way, is another one of my favorites, too. And I don't buy the low fat. So just count the calories, make it work.
Yes.
So first thing is eat a high-protein breakfast in the morning. And then you mentioned complex carbohydrates. What kind of examples of complex carbs can you give us?
Right. And I think with complex carbs, I think people are well aware that anything whole grain falls into that. So if you decide to have that egg and you want a piece of rye toast, which is one of my favorite grains, or if you choose to have one of the smaller bagels, that's whole grain, would be a good choice. Or then, of course, you can go into, like you mentioned, with other countries, muesli is eaten with Greek yogurt often. So your steel-cut oats or, adding a splash of flax seeds for the fiber and the omega-3s, I think are good starts. And I'd have to agree with you, eating kind of around the world, I was really shocked in China where they usually start breakfast out with soup. So those of you that really like a warm breakfast, I think that having soup in the morning can be a very good choice.
Yeah, when I was in China, they also served beer with breakfast.
I missed that buffet.
Yeah. So we have now the beginning of our day, and of course at Trivita we're very much in tune with certain suggestions for water. Our water consumption begins with 2 glasses of water when you first arise, when you first get up. Flush those kidneys out and start the hydration process. We calculate our water as being about 2/3 of an ounce of water per pound of body weight becomes kind of your upper level. About 1/2 of an ounce becomes your normal daily target. And the minimum amount that you can deal with, that your body can use in a single day, will be about 1/3 of an ounce per pound of body weight. So I'm going to say that I weigh roughly 200 pounds. We're going to say that I weigh that roughly, and that means I need about 100 ounces of water a day.
Yes.
So I start my day off with 2 glasses of water, and then every half hour or so, I add water until I reach that saturation point. Also, and this is from a different perspective,
right.
but the high protein breakfast in the morning, I totally agree with that because of the cortisol cycle.
Yes.
And how if you can have protein by 7 a.m. in a normal diurnal cycle, normal 24-hour cycle, it actually sets you up for that 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the
Yes.
afternoon, having a good hormonal balance and not going into that crash.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a really good point. And I love the way that you outlined with the hydration and the protein, because the other side of it, I think, for holiday season that always is so worrisome, when you're with your relatives, you want to have such a good time. And there's risk of illness and falling sick because it's a very stressful time.
Mm-hmm.
And our immune system is under attack with the season changes anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So by being hydrated, you set the stage for helping to flush out the viruses and bacteria that end up coming in. And then with the protein as well, you're helping build all those layers in the immune system. So.
And speaking of immune system, tell us about sugar in your immune system.
Well, that's an amazing story. The fact that when you take a lot of refined sugars, so we do speak of sugar, as well as the sweet treats that we enjoy, they really kind of paralyze the immune system cells. So over time, you can imagine if you get up in that morning and you have a sweet treat, you've already kind of put that immune system back on the back burner. And then throughout the day, if you have sodas and some of the snacky type foods that end up being refined sugars, you have really kind of delayed the immune system as far as being your top defenders of the viruses coming in.
Yes, and you're going to get sick. Right?
Yes.
It's the way it is. You're going to get sick between the exposure, the holiday stress, and really stress of any kind of having individuals, people coming into your home or coming into contact with them. It's just stressful.
Right.
It's going to wear you down, and then to further compromise yourself by adding a sugary treat. So we've talked about breakfast.
Yes.
We've talked about now the family meal. We're setting up for that family meal. Are there things that you can do before the family meal to make sure that you have that you don't have that tendency to overeat?
Yes, I think there's 3 strategies that I find most folks say that really work. The first is eat before you go. Sounds a little crazy,
Okay.
but you're doing it for 2 reasons. One, I always use a hunger scale, 1 to 5. 1 being so hungry, hopefully you're never there, where you really almost have brain fog, like you can't think clearly, or you get a little irritable. Some people even faint at 1.
Wow.
5 being holiday full.
Okay,
where you
yeah.
really are a little uncomfortable in
Gorged.
the outfit.
Gluttony,
yes.
we call that. Yes, yeah.
3 neutral, 2 slightly hungry, and 4 slightly full. So if you check in with yourself before you go to the party and can eat something that has like a protein composition, you know, it can be even a little half peanut butter sandwich. It could be a handful of nuts. It could be a whole fruit with a slice of cheese. What you're doing is you steady your blood glucose, but at the same time, you kind of stave off that appetite. So when you get to the party, then you can make some choices, because usually it's a happy hour kind of atmosphere before you sit down, so that you can be very mindful of what you're going to eat before.
Sure, you're thinking, you're not ravenous.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
You mentioned before that mindless eating machine, right?
Exactly. Then the second thing I would also caution people is to be kind of a 2-fisted drinker. If you do like to imbibe on alcoholic beverages, make sure that you always have a glass of water, so that you're kind of sharing and pacing yourself on that. 1 is a steady blood glucose, and it really does help moderate those calories.
Yes,
You
and
know?
remember that alcohol is a diuretic, so you need to replace that water.
Yes, and then I think the third one really is make some choices ahead of time. I personally like desserts, so I would forego the bread basket or some of the hors d'oeuvres that might have a carbohydrate, refined sugar component, because I'm going to save up for desserts. Other people might reverse that and prefer to enjoy bread with their meal, but then go ahead and save off on the dessert. So make some choices within that, knowing that your portion control is within your hand, the protein is your palm, the ideal starch is your fist, and open hands are the fruits and vegetables. So you kind of carry that right with you.
Very good, very good. And then one thing you mentioned also on the pre-celebration snacks, I noticed that everything you mentioned had high fiber and also high fat, good fats, healthy fats, the kind of fats we're supposed to have. And those are two things along with water that we know will absolutely kill the appetite, right? Healthy fats, healthy fiber, and abundant water will absolutely kill the appetite and allow you to make those choices, right?
I love that. That was a good summary.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, we got one last thing, and that's to talk about the weekends. Do you want to tell us just a little high level about how to stop weekend binge eating?
Yes. One is, I think, beginning of the week, you decide what you're going to indulge on. I think sometimes the anticipation of the indulgence is more fun than the actual indulgence. So
good.
if you choose that's an evening, or maybe it's a different type breakfast, caramel rolls with your family, but you make some choices ahead of time and then get more movement in on the weekend. One is, I think that'll help alleviate the stress, burn a few calories, and steady your blood glucose.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Patty. It's been wonderful to have you back here again, and hopefully we've given you some tips that you can use, not just during the holiday season, but really year-round to make sure that we maintain our weight, if we need to, that we lose weight. Most importantly, that we have the energy and vitality that we need every single day to make sure we're living a life of purpose. And of course, Trivita has the Leanology system for accelerated weight loss, including nutritious, delicious shakes, appetite-suppressing chews, and the weight loss accelerating capsules containing the Converta blend. Awesome for accelerating your weight loss and keeping you on track. Remember, health only comes from healthy habits practiced every day. Let's make sure and create a mindfulness around our body as we learn to listen to the messages and live a life of purpose.